subject is bunting here still, and I was going to try to talk a little bit and then do a demonstration, but instead I think it's best that I divide those into two different videos. I got so much stuff here to talk about. Got a long list of things. What I'm trying to do in this video is the first attempt at a reconstruction of something from the dead ball era that I've done yet. The previous videos, the two that I've done, were really just about sacrifice bunting. I did say, though, in my introduction that I know that guys like Collins and Cobb were doing things that didn't really qualify as would not qualify as a bunt today, but they weren't really swinging away either. Something in between, and that's why I've called this the fake and throw down. It may not be the catchiest name in the world, but I think it is very descriptive of what I'm trying to do with my hands here primarily. So let me describe what's going on here. When I do the demonstration, I will first of all be faking a bunt. So I'll go down in my crouch and slide that top hand up a little more. I'm going to creep in with that back foot, but that could be part of a fake, because a lot of guys do that when they're bunting. They'll bring the front foot up. I do that myself, especially when I wanted to go down the first baseline. But I'm not really going to bring this hand, I'm showing it too far up on the bat. I'm going to have it down here a little bit, and when I creep forward, I'm going to be able to really do pretty much of a, not a full swing, but I call it throwing down. Most important thing is that when this back foot comes forward, almost at the same time, my bottom hand is going to pump outward. So now I'm cocked and I'm ready to come at the ball, and the top hand is going to drive down. Now see, I've talked about this before when we discussed the old school, the dead ball swing, but the hand spread. We call this the reverse parallel motion. The bottom hand is kind of pulling in as if on a lever, and the top hand is driving through. Now we're not going to finish like that. We're just going to pump that bottom one out, and then creeping forward, and then I'm going to do that. I was looking at the screen there, and I really don't want it to look quite like that, because what I'm really trying to do with the original fake is to draw the infielders in, but especially the third baseman. I want him to come in, and I'm going to try to be a little late on this and pop this over his head, and maybe even the shortstop. That's the objective, to go the other way with it. When you're a left-handed hitter, you really want to take advantage of the fact that those fielders have a longer way to throw, as well as, of course, the fact that you're closer to first base. So it's so much easier to, I think there's so many more advantages to doing this sort of tactic when you are hitting left-handed. Now, when I was practicing this the other day, I was just thinking, wow, I feel like Ichiro. This is a lot like that kind of, you're already in motion, and you're doing that as you're running. Although Ichiro really doesn't think that he's already running when he makes contact. I don't want to get into that debate, but there's this that is different from Ichiro, and that is that he will finish one-handed. And we don't want to do that, because I was doing that in my practice some too, and I didn't get the result that I want, because if you're doing this and the top end is coming off, then the weight of the barrel is going to tend to carry the bat down just a little bit, but that little bit might be enough to undercut the ball, and then you're blooping it up there. I don't want to do that. I want to try to get it in the air. Yeah, I want to put some backspin on it, just as we do with the regular full dead ball swing, straight and slightly downward. But I don't want it to get very far up in the air. I want to shoot it over because this third baseman is expecting a bunt. He's expecting it to be on the ground. So it doesn't have to be up very much. I don't want it to get up so much that possibly I bloop it up there and the shortstop or the third baseman can run under it. That's the thing. That's why I don't want to undercut it too much. And the other thing is, if I get out in front of it a little bit, now Ichiro can do this because he's fast. He'll be faster than I am when he's 100 years old. But if you're a little bit out in front of it, then notice that the barrel is starting to come up now. So what happens then? Then you top the ball, and the topspin is going to put it on the ground. And maybe, of course, for a regular bunt situation, that's a good thing. But that's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to send it up into the air and put it over the heads of the infield. So I do want that straight, slightly downward line into the ball. And that's actually kind of hard to do. I know that I'm not getting this right when my top hand comes off the bat. I want to keep it on the bat. Again, I don't have to have a complete finish. I don't want one. But this is just a very handsy kind of swing. Just pump the bottom one and drive through with the top one. And I want to be in motion toward first base when I make contact. It's not really a slap bunt either, as I understand the term. When I've seen guys slap bunting, they'll square around and then they'll slap at it. The hands come back together and they kind of take as full a swing as they can now that their feet are squared around. I'm not slapping at it. I'm throwing. I still prefer that phrase, throwing down. I'm trying to take. It seems to me that a slap is not necessarily that level, slightly downward, straight, direct cut. That's what I want. This is a kind of a tactic that you might use, of course, when a sacrifice would be expected. You need the infielders to start coming in so that you don't even have to have them to come in very much, but that's why you might show it a little early, because you want them to just kind of be off balance a little bit. All I need is for the third baseman just to take a step or two. His momentum is already carrying him toward me, and if I can just lift it up a little bit, he's not going to be able to reverse his motion, hopefully, and get back in time to get the ball. When I was practicing this, I did pop a few of them up, but they were all well foul, so that, if there is a runner on base, he's going to have, probably no one's going to reach the ball anyway, but if they do, he's going to have plenty of time to get back. Or else, sometimes I was able to get him up in the air, and probably I made such good contact with my hand motion and the top hand on the bat all the way through that chance that maybe a left fielder playing in might have caught the ball, but again, the runner would have a chance to get back. So I'm not really. I want to get these infielders creeping in so that I have a really good chance of getting it over their heads. I would, if I do this earlier in the game too, I wanted to note that I open up the opportunity of using a true bunt later in the game, because once I've done this, what are they going to think the next time that I drop down? That I'm faking one of these bunts, and so maybe they're going to stay back this time, especially if there's nobody on base. Maybe they think I'm trying to sucker them, and now is when I would drop a real bunt, and I will have a much better chance of beating it out for a base hit, because they're not coming in. I would say don't use this in the following cases. If a pitcher's throwing a lot of junk, if he throws a lot of breaking balls and off-speed pitches, this is hard to do. The fastball is the easiest pitch to bunt, and especially when you're trying to shoot it the opposite way, if the ball is just fluttering and or coming in too slow, good luck trying to wait on that long enough and get it the opposite way. I don't even want to try this if I see that a pitcher's really good at throwing that junk at me. And I would also try to, because I don't practice enough, you guys, I have trouble getting a good pitch and laying off on the bad ones that my machine throws me. But, you know, if I were really as practiced as I should be, I would lay off certain pitches, and in this case, I would not try to do this on an inside pitch. This is a really good tactic to use on an outside pitch. I want to be a little late on it, and I want it out there so I can just steer it over the third baseman's head. So if you see that it's coming in on your hands, and if you don't have 2 strikes, maybe you should just let it go. Now I did in my practices, we'll see what happens in a few minutes when I do my demonstration, but occasionally I did get out in front of the ball, but I had some good contact. And probably the second baseman is going to be in some kind of motion too if he thinks that if I fake him with that bunt roost that I'm giving, well, maybe it's going to go up the middle or the second baseman's way. But if I can just shoot a little line drive up there, I could still have a good result. So it's not necessarily a bad thing if it doesn't go the third baseman's way. That was kind of an aside. There's a third thing. I don't think I want to do this with 2 strikes, because the bunt by that point is kind of a tough sell, isn't it? And if you sort of fake a bunt with 2 strikes, maybe the fielders are going to think that, nah, I'm not falling for that. Well, and if I go ahead and try to pop it over their heads, then maybe they're going to stay back and they'll be in a position to make a play on the ball. So probably not such a good idea with 2 strikes. And the final thing I wanted to say here is I do think this is, again, sorry for you right-hand hitters, but I think this is something that a left-handed hitter, I was going to say lefty righty who's batting left, because I do think that's the easiest way to have a good lower hand, which is so important for these different kinds of techniques. But the righty, the guy who's batting right, I don't know what you'd really gain by shooting the ball over the first baseman's head. He's not going to be charging probably as hard as the third baseman anyway, and it just doesn't seem like this would be a strategy that a right-hander would want to use. So sorry to you guys, I'm really just talking to the left-handed hitters here. Well, look for part 2 of this video, and hopefully that'll be a helpful demonstration.